unusual stories regarding the food in your life. Join us in our journey as we uncover where these interesting gourmets and stories come from around the world with our one and only Chef Matt in the studio for 맛. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Had a great holiday weekend. How about you?
I had a good one. It was very restful. 뭐 특별하게 뭐 대단한 대를 갖는 것도 아니고 대단한 한 것도 아니고 그래도 너무 힐링이 되더라고요.
그거는 I think that's the best case scenario.
It really is.
Weekend.
Because sometimes 뉴스를 보니까 해외로 가신 분들이 엄청 많더라고요.
맞아요.
그런데 그 휴가 갔다 오면은 또 휴가 가고 싶잖아요. You need a rest from your vacation sometimes. And so, I don't know, 6 days is pretty long. And so it's a good time to go like to Southeast Asia. But staying home for 6 days after a busy who knows how many weeks and months is just prime.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
And yeah, with the holidays, comes food. But with food, sometimes it comes with an extra couple of kilograms.
맞아요. 저도 엄청 많이 먹었는데 그래도 기분 좋더라고요.
맞아요. 그래서 기분 나쁘게 today we're going to talk about diets.
좋습니다. It's time to get a little bit angry, a little bit regretful because just don't step on the scale. Maybe if you look in the mirror, you can feel like, 조금 부었나 싶을 때 빨리 잡아줘야 돼요.
Right. And hopefully by the end of the episode, though, we also might leave you with a little bit of hope.
좋습니다. Okay, so 오늘의 주제는 다이어트 음식일까요?
다이어트입니다.
좋습니다.
So today's first question is, which country's pop star is notorious for going on a diet of just 1 apple, 2 sweet potatoes, and a protein drink? And this is per day.
Per day. 어떤 나라의 팝스타는 매우 독하게 다이어트를 하는 것으로 유명한데요. 하루에 쌀과 하나, 고구마 2개, 그리고 프로틴 드링크로 독한 다이어트를 하는 이 가수는 어느 나라의 사람일까요? Okay, so hold up. One apple, 2 sweet potatoes, and 1 protein drink.
Right, and I believe that this pop star would sometimes substitute bananas for sweet potatoes for a little bit of variety.
Okay, so is this like every day, all day, or is it like for a particular tour? Or?
Yeah, so it was for like one stint. Like it wasn't. I don't think she survived 20 years off of this.
그렇죠. 할 순 없죠. All right. Well, I think of the U.S. because Hollywood is crazy like that. But I also think of Korea.
I mean, sweet potatoes is pretty synonymous with Korea. But also, once you start looking into health food, sweet potatoes are pretty popular everywhere nowadays, especially because of the fiber and the beta carotene.
Yes.
I think the rest of the world has caught up to Korea in discovering how great sweet potatoes can be.
Yeah, and I think, because of social media these days, you have a lot of tips and recipes to follow from social media, which is great. But another trend on social media is, of course, photos.
Yes, and specifically, we're talking about people who go on these kind of like 독한 다이어트 in the name of taking a body profile 사진.
Yes, I knew a girl who, because 바디 프로필 사진을 한번 찍고 싶다고 해가지고 엄청나게 다이어트를 했는데
맞아요.
많이 빼긴 뺐고 근육도 생기고 했는데 얼굴이 완전 인상이 다르더라고요. You know those people who work out so hard that their face really changes?
Right.
얼굴에도 근육 막 생기고 막 그렇더라고요.
맞아. 몇 시간 동안 하루에 그 인상 쓰고 운동하면은 your face muscles are just going to get a workout from just scowling all day long.
Seriously. But in any case, it is such a trend to, I don't know, get half naked.
Sure.
Or full naked sometimes. And then take some photos.
Right. So if you're not familiar with this, it's body, profile, 사진, photo. And it's this idea that you work out really, really hard for a couple of months to get the hottest you've ever looked. And then you take photos in, if you're a woman, like a bikini. And if you're a man, like, well, bikini bottom.
Speedo.
Right, Speedo. Or if you're more modest, maybe sometimes you'll wear like a suit, but no shirt underneath.
Sure.
And just show off those
right.
abs. And there was one news item from 2020. It was called the bucket list item of 2020. Wow. And so in this news article, it says, according to a survey last year, so this was a article from this year, so according to a survey in 2022 by a research company, 84.7% of respondents said that body profile photos have become common culture, not just for celebrities.
And I think around this time, 이때가 코로나 막 터졌잖아요.
맞아요.
So, you just start doing new things and people want to take care of their health.
Yeah.
There was like 극과 극 사람들. 어떤 사람들은 아예 모르겠다 하면서 막 먹고 찌는 스타일도 있었고 한편에는 아니다. 이제부터 건강 관리를 해야 되겠다. 약간 깨달으면서 they started going on diets and things like that, taking photos, and it is quite impressive.
And you hit the nail on the head. A lot of experts do attribute that kind of COVID, stay at home, need to find something to do. Like a lot of experts attribute that being the reason why body profile photos kind of exploded in popularity.
Sure.
The first ones kind of came with that, this kind of latest wave of social media. So like around 2018, once like, IG and some of the other platforms really started to kind of mature and really take off here in Korea, that's when we first started seeing that first wave of body profile photos.
But I want to know like who are doing that. You know what I mean?
Mostly celebrities or like trainers themselves.
Okay.
그 자기의 PT 사업이나 그 헬스 트레이너면은 trying to attract clients because like hey listen I can do this for me I can do this for you.
Right.
But then it was about 2020 2019 when it started to really become commonplace and not just for the professional athletes, trainers and celebrities.
맞아요. 그래서 일반인분들도 나도 해야 되겠다. 그런 거 보면은 이 사람 할 수 있으면 나도 할 수
맞아요.
있잖아.
And you know what's funny is that I called this 10 years ago. 거의 10년 전에. It's like 2012, 2013. 술자리에서 I was sitting there and just talking with my sister. And I was like, don't you want to get like really fit? Just maybe just really, really fit for like a weekend and then just like train for weeks and just take a photo? I predicted this a decade before it even happened.
Yeah, I mean, if you can take a photo, there's proof that I once was like this.
And I think that's the kind of motivation behind some of the reason why people want to do this.
Right.
I think some people do want to experience what it's like to be very, very fit one time in their life. I think other people, maybe it's like healthier reasons where I want to get healthy and this is like a tangible goal.
Sure.
And then I think there are unhealthier reasons to do this too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a fine line between, dieting and really starving yourself because, I don't know, I don't even think that an apple, 2 sweet potatoes, and protein drinks are good for you.
That's really taking it to the extreme.
그쵸.
Would you ever take a body profile photo?
I would love to. I don't know if I would really post it. I would also want to know who the photographer is. Like I can't have like a no-namer or somebody I don't. I'm not meaning like it has to be like a professional photographer, but somebody I don't know. Also don't want it to be a guy. I'm super like sensitive with that.
No, I know what you mean. And I think there are practical reasons for this too. Actually, I was talking to my wife about this. And I think there are reasons why women sometimes will choose women trainers and why they'll choose male trainers.
For sure.
And same thing vice versa. It's because I think part of it is that being a woman, maybe being trained by another woman, they have a better idea as to maybe what you'd want to work on, what you'd want to enhance, what you'd want to hide.
Yeah.
Just having that kind of 공통점 like that idea in common can be a powerful way to kind of like get a little bit more out of your workouts.
Absolutely, because I think there is a certain level of comfort where they're always you get touchy as well. But even if like seeing a girl who has a great body, I'm like, oh, so it is possible.
That's a great point. Yeah, I think it's a form of representation, right?
맞아요. Well, in any case, I hope you don't feel too guilty as we're talking about body profiles just a day or two after the holidays. But we're talking about one particular pop star in particular. 이제 어떤 나라의 팝스타든 매우 독하게 다이어트를 하는 것으로 유명한데요. 하루에 사과 하나, 고구마 2개, 그리고 프로틴 음료수를 독하게 다이어트를 하는 가수가 있다고 합니다. 이 가수는 어느 나라 사람일까요?
That's right. Which country's pop star is notorious for going on a diet of just 1 apple, 2 sweet potatoes, and a protein drink per day?
Let us know. 샵 1013 여러분의 guess 문자로 보내주시길 바랍니다. Here's Defcon. 힘내세요. 똥! What an interesting song. 힘내요 똥. For all of our 뚱s out there. 힘내세요. Dieting is always very difficult to do. I'm more of a one-day diet and never again until I regret it. I don't have the strong 의지. Power of will이 정말 약합니다.
맞아요. But the thing is that I think part of it has to do with our society's approach and attitude towards dieting, and we'll get to that in the second half. But yeah, I think that's a really important part of it is the will and being able to stick with it. Yeah, I think taking a body profile photo, like we were talking about earlier, I think that's a different sort of kind of discipline and strength that it takes because it's a commitment, but it's short term, right?
Yeah, I think that's the reason why people want to do this as well is because it's just for the photo. 왜냐면 거기까지 가는 것도 어렵긴 하지만 유지하는 게 it's a different story to start maintaining that body.
And there's also a financial aspect to it too. People on average spend about 300 to 500만 원, so about 2,500 to like $4,500 US on this. And yeah, I think if you can walk away with it with the ability to take care of yourself and maintain a healthy diet and learn certain exercises. That's the healthy thing you can get out of it. But the unhealthy part, well, unfortunately, on Korea's top search engine, the number one search word that comes after body profile 사진 is 후회. Regret.
진짜?
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people maybe they go into with the expectation that they'll be able to maintain it, but they can't because
맞아요.
maybe the regimen they were on was too 빡세, was like just a little bit too intense and just unsustainable over the long term.
Yes.
And then there's also the yo-yo effect, which comes from the bouncing back to your original weight and the health problems that can cause as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have ever strictly dieted or maybe you were too busy to eat and had an unregular health diet, but 머리가 너무 빠져요.
맞아요.
숱이 없어지기 때문에. And you can see it in your skin too. And it's just the worst, face and body health, hair, skin, nails, all those things. And so 배보다 배꼽일 때도 있어요. You know, you just end up getting a lot worse than you thought that you would trying to maintain or trying to go on this diet that may not be particularly good for your type of body.
Right. So let's talk about then everybody in this country for at least. I want to bring up this article that I found that interviewed different international students about whether they thought the Korean diet overall was healthy or unhealthy.
Okay.
어떻게 생각해요? What are your thoughts? Because there's no one right answer.
Yeah, I mean, what does diet even mean? If you're skipping out on certain foods, then sure. I mean, I'm not going to eat pizza every day. So even though I want to, and I think I could. Pizza가 왜 이렇게 맛있을까요? But I think to a certain extent, it is good to watch your weight, watch what you eat. But again, the question for today, if you're just eating an apple or 2 sweet potatoes and a protein drink, then I don't think that's necessarily.
Yeah, it's tough because on one hand, the Korean diet consists of a really wide variety of vegetables, a lot of fermented foods, a lot of it's really good. But on the other hand, you have things like chicken.
맞아요.
치킨 한 마리 먹으면은 it's up to 3,000 calories, which is a lot.
오늘 저녁도 안 먹었는데 출근하면서 엘리베이터 타는데 치킨 냄새가 나는 거예요. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to order. But stuff like this, I mean, it's hard to resist when you have the smells around you. 너무 어렵잖아요.
And that's kind of a double-edged sword. 우리나라에는 one student, she's 19, she said that 우리나라의 장점은 there's a really wide variety of healthy foods that you're able to get very conveniently.
Sure.
You can get fresh or freshly made, low sugar, relatively pretty natural, wholesome food delivered online. But like you said, anywhere you go, you can also get the same amount in fried chicken as well.
맞아요. 떡볶이도 먹었는데 너무 맛있는 거예요. Like this 분식 stuff, right? It can't also be so good for you if it's high in sodium and basically just all carbs.
Right.
But it's just so good.
어떻게 생각해요? What do you think about all the places nowadays 거의 다 그런 작은 개인 가게 아니면은 if it's not a small mom and pop restaurant,
Right.
a lot of the times they'll have the calorie count on the menu.
Oh,
How do you
okay.
feel about that?
It's okay. I think it's cool that people put it there so that you can keep track of how much you actually eat. But to me, it doesn't really faze me. I'm not offended by it.
Do you even notice it?
I don't.
Me neither.
Yeah. So that you say that, I'm like, oh, I guess there is. But
Yeah.
maybe I've seen it once or twice, but I didn't know that it was, pretty widely available for.
Yeah, I think 대부분, I think most people kind of feel like this. I think like another 20% feel very happy to have that because it just helps them keep track.
Sure.
It just helps them, and it's just like, oh, this is like X% of
Right.
my daily intake. But I think there are another 20% who feel a lot of anxiety by
Yeah,
looking at it. And
I
it's just a
bet.
constant reminder. And that pressure is just not very healthy.
Sure. And I mean, where does that pressure come from? It could be external. A lot of it is internal as well. So is that up to, the environment or whoever, to blame them and say you shouldn't do that?
Sure.
I don't know. It's a lot to work with when it comes to dieting because it's so sensitive as people suffer from eating disorders and wanting to, watch their weight because they want to fit into this cookie cutter image. Which is why I bring up Korea because we know like these K-pop 아이돌 같은 경우에도 연습생인데 한참
Right.
자르는데 이제 키워야 되나요? Is that the same good term? But it's an age where you're supposed to grow and develop yourselves in your early teens. But, the label wants you to watch your weight, have a certain measurement and things like that. And so you hear people and they say just 1 cup of rice per day.
Right.
And, it's so hard.
It is really hard. And I think one of the best things that's kind of happened in this, in the newer generations and the younger generations is that I think there's much wider representation of different body types
Sure.
that we've been able to see. Not very diverse, but definitely more diverse than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
I think that's why I like Hwasa, her song, especially Love My Body or something like that.
Sure.
It's pretty empowering.
And I think that they're like everything else. I think if body positivity is taken to the extreme, it starts creating problems. But I think even just a little bit of representation is socially very healthy.
맞아요. Well, that brings us to our question. Where does this person live? 어떤 나라의 팝스타는 매우 독하게 다이어트를 하는 것으로 유명한데요. 하루에 사과 하나, 고구마 2개, 그리고 프로틴 음료, 쉐이크를 다이어트하는 이 가수는 어느 나라 사람일까요?
That's right. Which country's pop star is notorious for going on a diet of just 1 apple, 2 sweet potatoes, and a protein drink?
Drumroll, please.
This is Korea.
Korea. I knew it.
And I think you know who this is. It's the 가수 이름은 일단 2 글자입니다.
화사?
2 English letters.
How is it?
Letters.
Is it IU?
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh, 아유님 워낙 작은 몸매를 갖고 계신 so petite.
And so, yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why this made such waves when she went on TV and said that that she went on this diet. And yeah, I think it was a shock in many ways, some negative, some positive. I think some people saw it as an achievement. I think some people saw it as unhealthy, and it brought a lot of conversation to the table.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, as a singer, I think you need a lot of strength, especially she's known as a 3단 고음. To hit those notes, you got to have a lot of strength. So, I don't know, it just worries me that somebody like her who will, if she loses any weight, she'll just disappear.
Yeah. But then again, we never also heard how big those sweet potatoes were.
맞아, 엄청 큰 고구마일 수도 있지만 PD님께서 기사에 따르면 이렇게 일주일 먹으면 5kg 뺀다고 합니다.
Wow.
So, if you need it, then maybe it's a good diet to do. PD님께서 나 못하 라고 하는데, well, maybe you don't need it as much as you think. In any case, this one goes out to everyone who is trying to lose some weight. IU love poem. Join us in our journey as we uncover where the most peculiar stories about food and diets come from around the world. Chef Matt in for Mate Matt.
안녕하세요.
What's the craziest diet that you've ever been on or even contemplated being on?
I did do Atkins back in like the 2000s. So Atkins is one of the many, many forms of like no low carb dieting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it too seriously, but I know that a lot of people really, really took it seriously at that time. I think that's the only like fad diet I've ever done. How about you?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done anything too extreme either because I'm no willpower at all. I'll be like, ooh, that's a good idea, and I just can't stand it. But I did do the no 저녁. That was a big thing when I was growing up because my mom like never ate dinner whatsoever because she's always, thinking about her weight and stuff like that. And she said it's the most effective. And so I remember when I was like 20, early 20s or even like 19, 20. I wanted to lose some weight, and I decided like 5 days I won't eat dinner. And seriously, it was the most effective.
And now that's trendy. It's
now
called
it's
intermittent fasting now.
Yeah.
Before it was just meal skipping, but now it's got a fancy name.
We used to be like made fun of, but like you can't starve yourself. And now all these people are doing it. But in any case, we're talking about dieting as we are recovering from the 6-day holiday. Hope you guys ate some good food, but sometimes it is time to watch your weight and watch you eat. Watch you eat, excuse me.
And you bring up crazy diets. So this next question is maybe the craziest diet of them all.
좋습니다.
Where did the breatharian diet, a diet where you give up all foods and only breathe air, begin?
This is ridiculous.
It's just absolutely ridiculous.
실화인가요?
It
is
is
true?
100% true.
breatharian 다이어트가 있다고 합니다. 어떤 종류의 음식도 먹지 않고 공기만 흡입하는 이극단적인 다이어트는 어디서 시작되었을까요?
Right. So, okay, just to put this out there, this is not a real thing. This is just something that a couple of people have done in history. And I will accept a couple of different answers because there have been a couple of different people who have claimed to have been able to do this. But the one I'm looking for is something that happened in 1999. And this person went on TV and said, "You can film me for like weeks."
Weeks?
And I'll prove to you this is real. And she gave up after 3 days.
Yeah, you just pass out and die.
But she was the one who coined the term breatharian. But there are other terms for this. I don't even know what to call it.
What do you call it? You're just starving yourself.
It really is.
굶는 거잖아요.
I think it's attention seeking. I don't know. I didn't even know what this is.
Just to bring a little shock value, I guess breatharian diet, 그냥 공기만 흡입하는
Maybe it's
type.
performance art.
Could be. All right, well, let's talk about some other diets that have been trending throughout the years.
Right, and I think the one of the biggest dialogues has kind of been around no and low carb.
Right.
It's been around since the 19th century. Nowadays, it's mostly in the form of keto and paleo.
Okay.
But it's been around for a long time. It's not a new diet. So there's this guy. His name is William Banting. And in 1863, he pioneered the low-carb diet, basically just meat all the time. And so he was a undertaker, and he was quite obese. To the point where he said he couldn't tie his own shoes. And because of this, he actually even started to go deaf.
Wow.
So he tried all these different things. It didn't work. His ear doctor suggested, hey, maybe cut out all the starchy foods in your life. And he did. He only ate meat, basically 3 meals a day. He cut out all carbs, basically lived off of bacon and kidneys and milk and he lost a lot of weight and even regained his hearing.
So this is all to do with your 체질, your body type, because I feel like, there are so many people that say, we were born as carnivores. All we need to eat is meat. And then there are the, vegans and vegetarians that say we don't eat meat at all, And so I guess it just really depends on your body type because not everybody who gets, obese and eats the way this person did can turn deaf. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think there's maybe something to do with like different body types, but I think at the end of the day, I think any restrictive diet where you're restricting yourself from eating like a whole category of foods, by very nature, is going to end up in some form of weight loss or another.
Yeah, I guess so. But I am quite surprised and shocked that this is in 1863. 19세기에서 비만이 있다는 게 또 충격적인 게 I just feel like 옛날에는 더 음식이 깨끗해야 되는 거 아니에요? You know what I mean?
Well, so since the Paleolithic time, so pre-civilization, so this is before the Greek and Roman civilizations, they have found little statues of humans, and there have been representations of obese humans pre-civilization.
Really?
So we don't know if these were, if these were fertility like artifacts or if they were just representations of people or even early forms of pornography. There are some archaeologists who believe that. But the whole thing is just that there were obese people long before there was even civilization. And so there is something in humans that, that allows us to get to that size. And, it's hardwired and it's not specific to one generation or another.
All right. So the 19th century, one guy was so big, he was like, I'm going to cut out bread, noodles, rice. I don't know. How did they have those? I guess they did have those types of floury foods and things like that.
I think I would say they probably ate more of those foods than meats. I think meats were a little bit harder to come by. It's only relatively recently. And so he made this diet public, and it kind of caught on with people, not with doctors and the science community, mainly because the science community was a lot more also focused on selling quick cures, and they thought he was kind of moving in on their territory. But in the late 1800s, so about 30 years later, they discovered the calorie, and that kind of became the new hot thing. And that's what was sort of pushed by doctors and even the government as kind of the way to count how much food you're eating. And so that's when calories versus carbs kind of became a thing.
Honestly, I don't even know, what it is. And people say, if you do this, then you burn calories first. And then if you do that, then you burn carbs. You know what I mean? There's so many things that I just don't understand.
So the idea behind a low-carb diet is that by not eating any carbs, you're putting your body into a state called ketosis.
Okay.
And this is a state where you're burning your fat for energy rather than the carbohydrates that you normally eat. Because carbohydrates are the first food source that your body will use for energy.
Okay.
And by not putting them in your body, you're burning fat instead of carbohydrates. There are a lot of problems with this. And one of the big problems is that it's very inefficient, and B, really, really hard for people to maintain over time. And as a result, when you go on especially no-carb diets, you lose a lot of weight really quickly in the form of water weight. And so that's one of the reasons why it's so appealing to a lot of people, because they can see the pounds fall off in that first week. But then after that, there was an experiment. It's a famous experiment known as the Minnesota experiment.
Okay. And
it was done by this guy. His name was Ansel Keys.
Okay.
And the U.S. government commissioned him to do this study on how do you get prisoners of war and people in concentration camps. How do you get people who are starving? How do you feed them and get them back up to a healthy weight? In order to do this, he had to get people starving. So he had 30 men. They were all volunteers. They knew exactly what they were going to do. I think the study was over the course of 2 months.
Okay.
And they basically slowly starved them.
Okay.
They were still eating like 2 meals a day, turnips, cabbage, maybe 1,000, 1,500 calories, so maybe about half the amount of food they were doing. And it was so hard.
Did they all turn on each other?
They didn't turn on each other. What they ended up doing, they became obsessed with food. They would just sit there and talk about food all day long. A lot of them dropped out. And even the people who stuck it through the entire study, they came back decades later and said, I still think about food all the time. I can't walk out of the house without a candy bar in my pocket. It traumatized them.
Wow.
And so the psychology of kind of restricting yourself and starving yourself, it is a form of trauma that really sticks with you. And it's extremely, and it can be extremely traumatizing, to to withhold yourself from food for that long.
Yeah.
And B, if you put yourself through that and still don't lose weight, that feeling of failure can be also extremely traumatizing too.
Yeah, speaking of that, I remember there was a study that was done with some kids that were traumatized from war and whatnot, and they would always wake up crying. And so what they did was they eventually gave each kid like bread or like a chocolate bar to hold on to as they slept. And then they could fall asleep, just knowing that there is food that is right in front of them.
Sure.
Food, it's an incredible thing, you can't live without it, but if you have too much of it, then it could kill you as well.
Yeah, and so, I think there are many unanswered questions when it comes to dieting, but I think one thing is pretty clear, starving yourself is not the key.
그러네요. breatharian diet is not the answer. But 이런 다이어트가 있다고 하는데요. 어떤 종류의 음식도 먹지 않고 공기만 흡입하는 이 극단적인 다이어트는 어디에서 시작이 됐을까요?
That's right. Where did the breatharian diet, a diet where you give up all foods and only breathe air, begin?
Let us know. 샵 1013으로 보내주시기 바랍니다. Here's Mika. Big girl, you are beautiful. You are beautiful. Don't worry. Don't go on the breatharian diet because you won't last more than 3 days for sure. But even one day, it's very difficult. Have you ever fasted for like 24 hours?
I don't think I have. I think, no.
I tried it once for like a religious reason because it was Easter or something. And oh my goodness.
Yeah, that sounds really, really hard.
It's torturous. And I know there are lots of people who do it. And some people say like they've done it for like a week or something. But one day is too much for me to handle not eating or drinking.
Right. Like I can understand like certain like types of extended fasting, like, Ramadan, where you can still eat before and after sundown.
Right.
But to literally have nothing for even 24 hours, I don't think I've ever done that in my life.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
Unless you really felt led to. But I just, it's so... At the end, I was like crying because I wanted some guk. I just wanted... And my mom like prepared like gukpat, but I couldn't even have the pot because it's too much for me.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Like sometimes at the end of the day, like when I'm tired, like even the idea of eating, even if I'm starving, feels overwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, like, as you said, for people who have starved, you have to slowly introduce yourself to food again because, as you say, it's overwhelming. Your stomach can't take it. 위가 작아지잖아요.
맞아요.
Yeah. Well, once again, there is a particular diet called the breatharian diet 같은 게 있는데요. 공기만 흡입하는 극단적인 다이어트가 있다고 합니다. 어디서 시작된 걸까요?
That's right. Where did the breatharian diet, a diet where you give up all foods and only breathe air, begin?
Let us know if you've got the answers, and also let us know what your craziest of crazy diets you've been on as well. And so we had the low carb, the keto. So much has to do with also money because some diets are quite expensive.
And I think that's been kind of the biggest talking point in especially social media nowadays because you have inflation and the rise of cost of goods. And also, the idea of dieting, I think it will always be there to a certain extent. So I think you have, those two things combined, budgeting both calories and budgeting money.
Right.
And so I want to get to the idea of counting calories.
Okay.
And it's something that I think has become more and more common nowadays, especially because you have so many apps now
맞아요.
where you can just put in the name of a food,
right?
And it'll tell you the calorie count. And I think what's helpful is that even if you don't do it for every single meal, counting calories for about like a week, I think will be kind of interesting to see and just get a feel for those numbers. 그런 칼로리를 얼마나 들어가는지 그 감이 조금 오면은 it can be helpful. And the one kind of metric that I've always kind of lived by is that a bowl of rice is more calories than half a bottle of champagne.
Is it really?
It's a so for a 200-gram bowl of rice, it's 300 calories. Half a bottle of champagne is 285 calories.
Oh my god!
And that has been the sort of 기준, my 기준 for like, am I going to eat something or not?
Yeah, I mean 술도 만만치 않잖아요, 진짜.
Yeah, it's all empty calories.
Yeah,
as well.
it really is. Can't get full from it. Don't get any nutrients from it as well. But for me, like budgeting money, budgeting calories calories just seems like a chore.
It is a chore, and like that's why I say, like, do it for like a week, and it's gonna suck for like a week.
Right.
But you'll leave that week with some knowledge as to like, okay, like if you go to a 고깃집 and you get 1인분 of like 삼겹살, it's this many calories,
Right,
and just
right.
kind of getting an idea, and that way you have like a baseline, like, okay, I need like X amount of calories to survive. If I go over X amount of calories, I'll gain weight. And if I do X amount, like minutes of exercise, it's this many calories.
Right. And I think, I mean, for my mom as well, she is pre-diabetic. And so they said to be careful. And she went to the doctor twice. And both times they said that. And she got kind of scared and started to go more on a diet. And it's because she's like 떡순이, 빵순이, and all that kind of stuff really like affects her 체질 more than others. And so she started eating 고구마, for breakfast and things like that. And so she looks good. But I mean, if I think that's me as well. If I'm on the verge of getting an illness,
Right.
then I'll, then I'll count calories and all that kind of stuff. But if I don't have to do it, it's hard to. So I don't know. It makes me feel bad for people who really have to count, like get a
Right.
scale and measure how many grams they have to eat. 어려운 일이에요.
근데 I think there are some people who really love living their life that sort of way, right?
맞아요.
Like they need to have those numbers,
Yeah.
and they really love having that organized structure to
Right.
it. So if you can leave this episode with knowing anything, listeners, is that I think the most successful diet for anybody out there is if you look at this and say, am I going to be happy doing this for the rest of my life? Because if not, then there's no point in doing something if you're only going to do it for a month.
맞아요.
Because you have to eat for the rest of your life.
That's true.
Figuring out what you can sustain for the rest of your life is the way to go. And I'm going to say it's going to take a little bit more than just oxygen.
Words of wisdom indeed. Breatharian diet. 어떤 종류의 음식도 먹지 않고 공기만 흡입하는 극단적인 다이어트는 어디에서 온 다이어트일까요?
That's right. Where did the breatharian diet, a diet where you give up all foods and only breathe air, begin? Our listener 1340 said started from a crazy person. And
정답.
you would be correct. But where is that crazy person from?
Drum roll, please.
Australia.
Australia?
So there is this one woman, her name is Ellen Grieve. She advocated breatharianism in the 90s. She went on TV. She went on 60 Minutes on 1999, said, I can do it. I can prove it. You can film me. And she only made it 3 days. She said, oh, it's because I'm in a hotel room. Like, I'm not getting the right air in here. And then they moved her. And then once she started to shake and it was clear that she was not doing very well, they cut it. And the reason why I said this, so she coined the term, but there have been figures from India, from Nepal, from 17th century France. There have been different people all throughout the ages saying that this is something that they can do. And,
Really?
I guess, like they said, human beings have not gotten any smarter or any dumber over the times. We just have more information at our hands.
That's true. Well, good luck to them, but as Matt said, I wouldn't really recommend just oxygen. Need a little bit more than oxygen. But in any case, congrats to our listener. It was from a crazy person all the way down in Hoju. Well, in any case, 덕분에 너무 많은 것을 배우고 너무 즐거운 시간을 보냈습니다. Chef Matt, we'll have to see you again next week.
See you then.
We'll leave you guys with our last song. Here's Walk the Moon, Work This Body. 여러분, 내일 봬요.